Hey, what's up? I know it's been a while since my last video. I've wanted to make videos. I've just been, I've been playing World of Warcraft for part. But in all honesty, I just kind of burned out really hard on RuneScape for a while. My hard mode TOB team kind of fell apart because some other people were taking a break ahead of Coliseum, and then the Coliseum expansion hit, and I kind of didn't enjoy it all that much. I still haven't fully enjoyed it, although I'm coming around as I'm getting back into RuneScape now. That really only explains the last 4 or 5, maybe 6 months. It's been 577 days, at least at the time that I'm recording this, since I uploaded my last real video. Some of that was because I went through a pretty bad breakup, and then following that, grad school is crazy, guys. Grad school is really, really crazy. But what I'm coming to realize is that making the videos was a really big part of stress relief for me at the time, and I want to incorporate it again. But I also recognize that part of the reason grad school is so difficult is burnout. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you were to search online for burnout to try and figure out if you're experiencing it or how to get over it, you'd end up getting a laundry list of search results with many different headlines giving you a random number of signs and symptoms or solutions. Most of the conversation around burnout in day-to-day life tends to focus on the idea of professional burnout, so that being job or maybe school related. Of course, this being a gaming channel, we'll also discuss the overlap of burnout in gaming. But first, we have to talk about the fundamentals. So burnout is composed of 3 main components: emotional exhaustion, which leads to a feeling of being drained or unable to recover; depersonalization, which leads to feeling detached from your work, from life, feeling indifferent towards the things that you have going on; and then a reduced sense of accomplishment leads to maybe feelings of not being good enough, feeling incompetent, feeling like you're not in control, and maybe that your efforts are meaningless. The state of burnout comes on due to chronic stress, low autonomy, having a mismatch between what you value and what is happening in your life, lacking support, or maybe having unclear expectations or directions in life. So let me give you a high-level work example. Maybe you've had no clear description of what's expected to you. You've just been assigned a project with nobody else to help you. The project's really important to the job, but maybe not to you, but you don't ultimately have choice over you getting to do this project, or maybe the elements that go on within it. And then, because of all of this, you end up being stressed day in, day out, hating your life as you try to complete it. Things can get further exacerbated here when you have other things going on in your life as well. So for example, grad school got a lot harder for me because while I had low control over what I was doing, I wasn't enjoying the projects I was working on, I was also going through a very chaotic life environment at the time. Some of you might be asking, how does this happen in gaming then? Gaming isn't particularly stressful, or at least it shouldn't be if you're playing one that you enjoy and have control over because of that. And obviously, if you're playing it, you must value it, or else why are you playing it? So let me paint you an example using RuneScape. I think that one of the most common reasons that people burn out in RuneScape is when they don't get a drop that they've been working towards for so long, and maybe they're 3 times the drop rate. A problem all too common in our Gamba simulator. In this case, you have no control over when you get the drop, as it's purely in the hands of RNG, and maybe there's a mismatch in how you want to play the game, in that you would rather be doing some other content that is gated behind getting that drop that you're working on. Or maybe you can't play with your friends until you get that drop, and because of this, you're lacking social support and social connection, and it's unclear when you're going to finally be free from this suffering. While this might not be acting as a traditional stressor, reduced enjoyment and feeling like you're beating your head against the wall is likely to be perceived by the stress response system equivalently to hating your job. And then from there, you end up building an association between not having fun and RuneScape. And if you've seen some of my other videos, I talk about some of the fundamental processes involved in learning, particularly from the reward aspect, but these same principles apply somewhat in reverse to keep it overly simplified here. You can see how this model of burnout, though, can easily fit into gaming. So let me paint you one more example, though. One of the other common trends that I've seen in RuneScape burnout is when someone's been working on a long grind and either finally completes it or ends up giving up before they're even able to do so. Something like maxing an account or maybe completing an Infernal Cave. In this case, you again might be sticking to a goal that you may not be directly enjoying in the moment, so a mismatch to your values, and adding in that stress component. You might be feeling ineffective because maybe you're failing or it's taking a really long time to max or to get that cape. And then you're feeling as though you don't have any control on when you're finally going to get across that finish line. And in these cases, because no one can directly help you with those goals, assuming you're not breaking the rules and buying a cape, you don't have support. And again, this feedback loop of not enjoying the game and then associating that specifically with the game will form and you'll become burnt out. While your expectations here might still be self-imposed, we can end up being our own worst enemies too. And I'm sure we've all been awake, sat there at 3 a.m, crafting blood runes, wondering how the hell we got there and why we're even doing it. One final note, I'd like to add that neurologically speaking, burnout is not that much different from depression. With this in mind, burnout explains a large proportion of the lost productivity in the workplace, and probably a lot of the lost enjoyment within gaming. It's a difficult problem, and it's one that we'll likely all face at some point in our lives, perhaps multiple times. It probably feels even worse if you're finding yourself burnt out with the games that you're supposed to love and that you've invested so many hours in, though. So, what can you do to recover from burnout? When I was researching burnout for this video, it wasn't actually the first time that I've researched burnout. I've had to dive into this literature before because this is one of the most common problems that I've seen within my own therapy clients and that I've dealt with myself. So, I'll be honest with you and tell you that there's a lack of straight up solutions to burnout. There isn't a quick fix, unfortunately. It's not a simple process, and it can linger, it can be sticky, and it can feel like you can't get out of it at times. But I promise you there is a way forward. So I'll share with you some of the best solutions that do come out of the available research, and from what I've seen work with my clients. I'll also share my own personal journey recently through burnout and provide some of that anecdotal evidence, at least for what's working for me. The best therapy-based skills that the research supports are cognitive behavioral therapy skills, CBT skills, and mindfulness. So in the case of CBT, I've talked about this in some of my previous videos. It can be really helpful to both change how we're thinking about ourselves, our situations, and to help us behaviorally schedule and activate towards goals. In the face of burnout, I've seen my clients successfully using SMART goal setting, as an example, to break down tasks that seem intractable into smaller, digestible steps, and then they're able to work their way through those problems while also using the other side of CBT to change how they're feeling about themselves, maybe by relying on evidence that they have available to them in the here and now rather than just their assumptions or core beliefs. In the case of mindfulness, this type of practice really helps to foster acceptance of situations as well as to reduce that physiological stress, mental fatigue, and to foster more enjoyment with any given moment. And while mindfulness is something that should be practiced daily to get the most effects out of it, it can still be helpful in those moments where maybe you just need a quick break. Outside of therapeutic solutions, When we think about factors that play into managing stress regularly, these are also going to go really far for you here too. So things like being physically active, eating well, socializing, sleeping well, will all help you to manage and be more resilient in the face of physiological stress. Beyond that, taking a look at the things that might be causing you stress is also important. So something like taking a look at your boundaries or expectations might be important. Let's say maybe you're not setting healthy boundaries, so you're taking on too much that you don't want to be taking on or that you don't have control over. In that case, maybe you just need to start to set some healthier boundaries. Or on the other side, maybe you have too high of expectations for yourself in that given context or in that period of time. But maybe you need to reconsider and come to a more balanced perspective about what's realistic for you right here, right now. Finally, making sure that you're using your time in as meaningful ways as possible. So, meaningful here being defined by you, but this will go a long way to make sure that you are maximizing the enjoyment that you get out of things. You might want to take an inventory of what you have going on and then prioritize dealing with things that are stressing you out externally, that are maybe contributing to that burnout, or maybe you need to reprioritize things by building in more time for the things that you enjoy in your life. So maybe you don't have to single-mindedly grind that boss or that one drop, and you can still go and do some other content as a break. So now let me share my case. I've been quite burnout for the last 2 years, and frankly, for most of my graduate school experience, which is almost 5 years now. The work demands are exceedingly high. I take on more than I should because I do find the work meaningful. However, it took a lot from me recently, and my wellness dropped significantly earlier this summer. But to bounce back from this, I had to take some time and reassess. What's worked most for me has been being very intentional with my scheduling and my time. I'm making sure to plan out the days that I want, not just the days that I need. I build in time for exercise, for reading, and for all the things that I enjoy, while also making time for the things that I need to do. I always try to make sure that I have my priorities straight within a given day, or at least within a given week. Another thing that's been really helpful is figuring out what balance I want to strike here. And how I did that was through a lot of journaling. Now, any good therapist worth their salt is probably going to suggest that you do some form of journaling, at least at some point. And I do think that using it to write out difficult thoughts or problems that you're dealing with and to organize goals, intentions, striking this balance, at least for months or weeks or days, can be very, very helpful. Coming up with your own style here is also a really big key to successful journaling, and there is no right or wrong way to do it, so make it your own. But I will link a video in the description that I found really helpful to kick off a new form of journaling for myself recently. I'm also happy to share some more examples if you have questions in the comments. The biggest takeaway here today, though, is that if you're finding yourself burnt out, this is an indicator that something is out of balance in your life. It's likely time to take a step back and do whatever you can to bring yourself as close to homeostasis as possible. Even in gaming, if you're no longer enjoying something, change the content. Try another game, or maybe finally take that break from gaming altogether and do some of those other things that you've wanted to do for so long. At the end of the day, it's okay to be burnt out. It takes time, and it's a process to get through it. Give yourself that time to move through it healthily and try not to be too hard on yourself. Get the help that you need to get through it, and just like the saying goes for RuneScape, you don't really quit. You only take really long breaks. You'll always come back to the game, or in this case, you'll always come back to a baseline in life. You'll always make it back to homeostasis at some point. I hope you guys found this video insightful, helpful, or at least entertaining. Let me know in the comments what you do when you're finding yourself burnout to get through it, or maybe let me know what points you get stuck with your burnouts. As always, if you have any suggestions for other videos you'd like to see or things that you want me to discuss, leave them there as well. If you're bored, sometimes I stream over at twitch.tv/KezTV, although that's been less frequent recently. So if you'd like some fun, healthy content, check out some of my friends here on screen right now. Scott VC, Joe Watermelon, two of the greatest Iron Men in game. Lazy Good for Nothing, one of the funniest guys, one of the best players you'll get to watch. If you do go check them out, consider saying as your first message, "Hey, is Kez here?" just to screw with them a little bit. For now though, I want to thank you guys for watching. I know it's been a while. I'll try not to be as long till the next one. But I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.